So just to introduce Sarah Choo, I'm sure all of you know her very well. Sarah Choo, we're very proud of Sarah Choo. She's an award-winning artist who has won several awards, mainly for photography, but also she makes really spectacular video works, new media works. And recently, she's still a finalist in the Sovereign Art Prize, as we've heard today. So we're very proud of Sarah. Without further ado, I'm gonna hand this over to her to talk a little bit about past works and then to give an update about what she has been doing recently during these times.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Audrey, and thank you everybody for coming on Zoom to join me tonight. I'm going to introduce some of my earlier works in my practice because I think it's important to ground my art practice so you kind of know a little bit about what I've been working on before. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the hidden dimension. I'm going to lower the volume for a little bit so it doesn't get distracting. So the hidden dimension is a 320-degree immersive video installation. And what you're looking at here, I think as I have talked about in my biography and shown in my biography, I'm actually really interested in themes of social alienation, isolation, really relationships between individuals. So in this work, I'm reflecting upon social alienation and isolation. I find it quite ironic how when contrasted against a highly populated city like Singapore, how is it possible that despite being surrounded by so many people, we are so much so alone? And so in this work, I'm reflecting upon the phenomenon. In the hidden dimension, I'm questioning the effectiveness of the relief offered by daily routines. You can see there are 7 members that is being depicted, and they are very engaged in very mundane activities, almost distracted, you know, sewing, just eating chips, cleaning a teacup. And at exactly the same point in the film, in an unexpected cadence, they will simultaneously break from their self-imposed Sisyphean distraction and look at the audience and one another. When watching and looking at people, I also realized that if I am going to look at various individuals and look and reflect upon alienation and isolation, it does not always have to be directed and staged. So when moving around the city, I began to notice that actually this is very prominent in the city. So in waiting for the elevator, I'm reinterpreting observations of individuals at void decks across Singapore and then representing them to my viewers. So I think some of us, actually most of us here would know that the term void deck is uniquely a Singaporean one. It refers to the ground floor of HDB blocks that have been left open as sheltered space. So the government actually, it's regulated by the government in Singapore that these public housing comprise of set ratios of different ethnic groups within the country. And the void decks then function as a space for community mingling and social integration. So here, I suppose, for this work, I'm really drawing on the unnoticed, trivial, and repetitive actions. And I'm reflecting on the social purposes of these sheltered environments. And this composite panorama would ultimately exist as a non-place, an accumulation of almost like fragments in time. Accumulation of fragments, I think when piecing together fragments, not only within Singapore, but also across various cities. I think at this point of time, I was traveling a little bit more, and when I was going to the larger cities like New York and London, I realized that that sense of alienation and isolation is not just present in Singapore, it is very much prevalent outside as well. There is something strangely spectacular, almost excessive about urban cities, I think, like the frantic, the hectic buzz, the rush. So this work titled Nowhere Near is showing at Art Science Museum after circuit breaks up until August, and it depicts a panoramic composite across Paris, London, and New York. So isolated characters you would then see are photographed from a distance and videographed from a distance, and then pieced together to form a narrative in a space which belongs nowhere and everywhere at one time. So the work actually depicts a composite of documented events. Sounds were recorded on site, manipulated, and then recomposed as a soundtrack as well. I'm often intrigued by gray areas, kind of like the space in between, whether it's a photo or video, is this moving, is it still, is it documented, or is it staged? So working with that in mind, I created this work. I suppose at this point in time also, I'm reflecting upon human beings as performers, whether conscious or subconscious. We are all performing, you know, when we put ourselves out there, when we talk to people, we are sometimes subconsciously also putting up a front. And I'm constantly enticed by, I suppose, subtlety in bodily movement. So you would see in this video, some people are moving, some are still. Yeah. Where theatre collapses is the place where rehearsal starts. Looking at people as performers, right? Repeatable and likened to an experiment almost. I find that dance or the rehearsal can turn any social space into a theatre and vice versa. So during practice, right, the theatre is no longer in the domain of seeing or being seen. It's not a performance space that excludes real life reality. It is rather a space subjected to constant self-immersing, interruption, and deconstruction. So rehearsing finds itself at the crossroads between on-stage and off-stage. Again, the grey area, which I am always very drawn towards. Theatre and real life also. So Art of the Rehearsal is, as what you're looking at right now, is an immersive 3-channel multimedia video installation. And this work depicts traditional dancers across various cultures practicing along the back lanes of cultural districts in the city. So you might notice Little India, Chinatown, and even Kampong Glam, but they all look kind of similar because it's at the back alleys, and in the back alleys actually everything looks almost the same. Reflecting on the rigorous and intense training behind the performance, right? I was trying to bring out the constant determination of the performance. The emphasis here is on the process rather than the final outcome. Yeah. Working with conscious performers is always very intriguing for me. There are at times a contrived and uncanny element present. It is very deliberate, right? This act, both on the part of the actor and actress, and also myself as an artist. So Where You All Night, this artwork, is a double channel video installation which depicts 2 individuals coexisting in one space, separated only by the camera frame. So the potential narrative here is suggested by the actions, you know, of the characters, as well as the composition of the set. The installation piece actually reflects upon the subjectivity of the camera in parallel to that of a stage narrative. For me, I suppose the scene presented is one that is hyper-real, suggestive almost of a time and space, which is again non-existent. This piece was recently shown at the Singapore Art Museum 2 years ago, and more recently at the Turku Art Museum in Helsinki last year. You might already notice at this point that the backdrop is set in a hotel. I suppose at this point in my life, I was traveling a little bit more, and I was reflecting upon the hotel as a transitory space, right? A shelter is not home. It's kind of cold sometimes. It is not surprising to find that almost all the rooms have a similar layout, similar objects. And that led me to my next body of work. Okay, I began finding comfort in such spaces, and for a total period of about 5 to 7 years, I found solace in staying at various hotels and hostels, both in Singapore as well as abroad. I started to get curious about individuals living in the rooms of such hotels, the occupants, right? And a parallel to my previous methods of compositing and reconstructing documented images, for this piece, I am representing fragments through time in the form of an interactive and immersive installation. So Accelerated Intimacy, this artwork, was built, and it is a site-specific piece at Yeo Workshop, and it was the very first exhibition that I did, and I worked with Audrey and Christina then on this piece, and it was an amazing experience. So the films actually begin with the obscured view of my characters, and it ends with my characters turning back, looking towards the viewers upon hearing the doorbell. Through appropriating film scripts, I decontextualize conversational lines, significant quotes in film history, and reconstructed a narrative surrounding each character. So all 5 subjects that you're looking at in this piece are shot in various hotel rooms. They are given the liberty to interpret their parts of film scripts and reenact specific roles within a set. The dual presentation of images and objects creates a complex staging of lived experiences that exist concurrently across time and space. So I'm not really offering any kind of resolution to the history of these characters and the site, but Accelerated Intimacy is actually a culmination of constructed coincidences that are unfinished. It's ongoing, it is revealing, and it establishes complex relations within each reading. Subsequently, with the collected notes, I mean, when I was living in the different hotel rooms, I was collecting various notes from the people that were living in the rooms. I decided to put up an installation and an exhibition of the notes that I found. And so what you're looking at is titled, "And This Is Where It Starts." It's actually a culmination of a kind of intimacy between 2 people, myself and the people living in the rooms. The installation is created using lights as well as engraved scans of the notes on acrylic and glass sheets. So the process of writing to potential participants is echoed in my works after. These are more recent works that have been created in 2020. Most of my pieces express reflections on personal experiences, the relationships. I don't particularly seek to speak about one specific experience or particular narratives, but I instead prefer to draw on kind of situational emotions, reinterpret and represent them to my viewers. I've always admired, I think when thinking about writing to people, right, and how it relates to my work, I've always admired writers and poets who are able to transcribe their thoughts so accurately that their accounts become so revealing and disconcertingly moving. And I suppose this is what I am trying or hoping to achieve with my images and my work, for the work to be so compelling that it encourages viewers to ask more questions and to interpret, not to take what they see at face value. So this artwork comprises of participants coming on set at a specific time, and they're given the liberty to do whatever they want with a prompt using my note. So this work is titled "Tonight, the Air is Warm." So it's an investigation of one's perception and behavior in relation to the playground as a social space. That's why it's set at the playground. Themes of childhood, memory, play, is something that I'm reflecting upon. Participants are invited to respond to a series of instructional procedures that is designed for each of them. The essential nature of the activity is very imprecise, which is like almost the opposite of when I'm editing my work. And it occurs across space and time. It's perpetually an open project, and this piece takes place in interspaces between interpretation, negotiation, performance, and chance. So the entire recording took place over about an hour, but of course I compressed it to make it shorter. And it was quite interesting to see how different participants reacted differently at different playgrounds. So there was also another video where the participants came to the playground and all of them were on their phones. Like none of them were, talking to each other. Yeah. But in view of this current situation, of course they are not, I cannot conduct this at work because all the playgrounds are sealed. So the concept of participation is indeed very complex, very multi-layered. It ranges from passive to active participation, many different forms, in between, many different approaches to what participation can and should entail. But this recent situation, as I mentioned before, presents a different set of challenges when approaching my subjects in an urban setting. So I began thinking about alternative modes of approaching my subjects. I wanted to adopt an openness to chance events in my pieces because I think that perhaps might allow for a slight element of risk, which I'm quite interested in. So you might have already observed in my previous video that towards the end of the video, I started writing more notes to people and I began mailing them out. The emphasis on participation in both contemporary art and digital media has led to a convergence between participation, art, digital culture. I find that it is quite interesting because it's quite interesting to explore the changing notions of interaction, space, place, and community as well. So I zoomed in on dance again, but this time not exactly and specifically directed. More of the universality of the creative process in dance. So I wanted to explore notions of dance being communicative. Anybody can dance, no matter how old you are, your training or your background. And dance also, because of its ephemerality, how precarious it can be as well, the scoring, the performativity. There's this emphasis on an immediate presence as well. The visibility and the vulnerability of the body enduring this performance of like a ritual, right? So the participatory character in my work would, of course, add this dimension of interdeterminacy, right? And I think that's something that I have to embrace. What I find interesting is how now there is a personal agency of the performer and the artist. They can choose whether they want to participate in this process or not.
So Sarah, this is your new work, and
so this is the current piece that I'm working on.
So the works you were doing before, the ones you showed us before, were before when you worked with actors and people, collaborative film sets, and this work is now you by yourself at home.
Yeah, so I'm documenting all these windows and then putting them together again as fragments of people dancing. So of course there were nights. It was not always smooth because I remember on the first night, after I wrote them, the very first night I was waiting to document the people, and then at like 8:40, I think it was supposed to be from 8:30 to 9. At 8:40, it was like blank. Like the entire building was black. Because I told them if they're not interested, they can shut the windows. And then I saw people peeking out, like, someone peeking out from the darkness, and they were pointing. I think they could obviously see me because I'm lit. And then slowly, one window started lighting up. And then the next night I had 2 windows light up. And then the following night I had another 1 window light up. And then I composited all the different windows together. And it's not yet done, so it's in progress. Yeah. Yes.
So Sarah, how do you communicate with these people?
Yeah. Okay. So Audrey was asking about the process of like writing to the different people. How did I go about doing that? So I would basically craft a letter for them, and then it would usually entail like a short poem of sorts, and then I would write a personal note. So there's a personal note actually behind. Here, and then I would sign off and give them my contact number in case they think I'm a weird like stalker or something. And then really looking at the block that I want to record, jotting down. I would study the people inside. So I kind of know who's who and what time they'll be home and what's a good time to film. And then I would then mail them out to the different unit numbers, the different buildings. But I would have to categorize them because I cannot record everybody at the same time. So I would record, like, for example, this is like, oh, the first night, then the second night, and then the third night would have to be here. So I would date it, like, oh, which date and what timing. Also have to know which level to stand on to record them so that it's clear enough. And then, of course, put the letters and post it to them. I didn't really want to wait too long for postage. So what I did was I went opposite and I kind of tried to sneak past the security guard. It was a little bit scary because I forgot that it was like a condominium, so they have a security guard. So the security guard was like, oh, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And I had to say, oh, I'm here to deliver stuff. And then I went to the elevator and I was like, oh man, I forgot that I needed a key card to tap to go up to the unit number to drop the mail. So I had to talk to the security guard and, hey, hello, actually my friend is not home. Can you let me go up? And then I realized I had to change my plan because now when I go up, I have to, I probably have to go to the top floor. I mean, the highest floor that I'm going to film for that night, mail it, and then take the stairs to go down. So I don't have to keep, take the stairs to go down so that he won't catch me. But I managed to do that anyway, and some people showed up, so that's great. So that would be my the process of me mailing out the notes. Because I'm still working on, okay, I can show you the so this is how I would usually work. I will put I would have to print my work in progress. So you would see some of the windows are empty or they are repeated almost here and here because I work in layers. So this entire building is almost like a skeleton and the windows are holes. If you think about it like stencils, so the videos can be underneath. So I'm putting all the videos underneath each window. So when working on a composite like that, it is very important for me to be writing on the print. I will always be writing and drawing on the print, similar to something like this. I'll be writing on the print, scribbling, jotting down what I think about it. Sometimes I draw directly, so like the balloons are drawn on and painted. You will see the light here. It is there's some chalk dust. I work with pastels and paint and sometimes some ink to help me understand how the color works. Because right now, for example, this is not complete because in terms of color, it is not working yet because there's too much warm here, not enough cools. I also have to think about, like, for example, when I am, this is a good example. For example, when I'm thinking about lighting, right? No two lighting should be the same. It should be different. So how can I create that lighting? I would have to then use chalk to kind of rub it on or use watercolor to paint it on so that I understand the process and then I can scan it and feed it back into the video. So you can see here, I have a funny uncle. He was this Asian guy, this old Asian guy. He was dancing really happily. He was dancing alone. He wasn't dancing with anyone, but it was quite interesting. And then there was a father and a daughter dancing. That was quite sweet. And actually, the process of making this work is quite interesting because for me, I believe that everything is a process, right? So everything affects everything else. And this whole idea of making use of or working on dance, right, is something that I never thought I would actually be interested to do. Out of the rehearsal was the only piece that really showcased or reflected dancers, like actual performers dancing, right? And then sometime last year, this was like a work in progress and a brainstorm about potentially how I was working that time with Audrey and the team on a potential work for Cavan Road. And then this came up, possibly having performers in that space, and then these two people dancing. And that's when I started to think about dance a little bit more. And then now, of course, the work actually like brewing, like coming into actuality. Yeah, so for me, the whole visual thinking process is important. I need to have my works on the wall because I need to stare at them for a long time. And because all the works take a really long time to make, sometimes about a year or more, I will work on different pieces at one time. So the playground work, right, where I wrote to people and got them to come on set. This is a piece that is still in the making. I'm hoping to create a series out of this, different playgrounds, different people coming together. But of course, with the current situation, this has to be on hold. And that's why the dance piece is kind of what I'm focusing on now. Yeah, so writing and reflecting is important. Sketching and drawing also. I was trained as a painter, so I think a lot of my works they will come off painterly, and the process is also working on the process of working is very similar to that of a painter, where I'm thinking about shapes, composition, you know, the triangle in the work to create that balance. Yeah.
I have one question. Did you get negative
Yes.
feedback from anybody? Usually when you, because your work's almost like a voyeur, do you ever get someone who is suspicious or worried?
Yes. So with accelerated intimacy, when I was writing the notes to people, some people were uncomfortable. I think I would be uncomfortable too. But most of the time, I think they can tell and they can feel. So I think the approach is very important.
We can take questions anytime.
Okay.
You can ask Sarah any kind of uncomfortable question. I think it's actually it's actually really good for a young artist to be interrogated, you know, and really criticized at this stage in your career, so that she's our star. We think she can grow. Sarah, you're how old? 30?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think it's really good to talk through a lot of things. And, you know, you have people on here of different levels of art, and it's interesting to hear what you think and how you can go forward. So I have one question now from a person.
Okay.
It came privately to me, so I don't know if you feel comfortable revealing yourself, but anyhow, the question is, do you feel an intimacy with your subjects after featuring them?
I think with all my subjects, okay, so there are two kinds of subjects. One would be those that are professional performers, right? And the others would be, for example, strangers who are unaware that I'm filming them. So for people who I'm filming and they're conscious, they're acting, they're being directed by myself, there is already that intimacy that's established. That's why I would have them on set. That's why I would ask for them to be on set. It's precisely because we are close enough. That's why I would be able to draw a certain parallel to their emotions, their background, and how they can potentially portray that on camera. So I would say there is the intimacy. With my subjects that I do not know, like strangers or even performers that I engage, I suppose the intimacy would, I think it's more of me being able to relate to how they are feeling, or me, for example, for my dancers and out of the rehearsal when they are dancing, I think as an artist / a director, you need to know what you want to portray. So for example, if I know, okay, there has to be a build up to this moment where everybody jumps in the air and you know everybody is doing something, I have to be able to articulate that to them. So the kind of intimacy would be the intimacy to, I suppose, an intimacy towards the performance, not so much the performer, you know? So understanding their craft, what it is that they do, and then having them bring that out. So I would say, yeah, that's my response. I hope I answered the question.
What's your feedback from participants or subjects after they participated and your artworks
Um,
presented?
so it quite interesting because for accelerated intimacy, right? For one of the subject, she didn't expect to cry during her performance. So she was Veronica. She's the wife in the bathtub.
The purple
So
one.
she didn't expect to cry. Yeah, the purple one. So she didn't expect to cry. And then when she was, we were rehearsing and then repeating and repeating. And I think it was like the 7th or 8th take or something like that. Then she cried. So we did like 20 overtakes, but we took the 7th take because she cried for that take. So I think sometimes maybe they learn a little bit more about themselves after, or maybe they were able to empathize. I also do not know, but I also am conscious not to cross the line and over ask. So I will keep it professional on set, but sometimes they do come out of the performance, but the performance feeling different from when they first went in.
And Sarah, you had somebody else cry on another one of your sets as well. It's the art of the rehearsal one, where the lady was doing her makeup and she got so conscious and she was weeping and weeping.
Yeah. So that was a good one. Yeah. So she was in front of a mirror. So how we filmed the rehearsal, the portraits, was that we had a kind of like a blackout mirror where my camera is behind the mirror and they cannot see me, so they see their reflection. So it becomes a little bit more natural for them when they are putting on their makeup and preparing for performance. I was recording that process. So I suppose, I don't know, I think when you are a performer, right, when you're a dancer or you're actor or actress, just like an artist, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting, your craft is like, it's your identity. You're putting yourself out there. So I think feeling self-conscious or realizing something can be quite an emotional process. And so I'm not too surprised when and if my subjects do cry or feel strongly at a certain point in time. Yeah.
I mean, they're also very intimate. Your work goes into a kind of intimate space. Even art of the rehearsal, you went backstage in that.
Yes. Yeah.
Another question, do you feel more like a filmmaker, photographer, or do you feel like a choreographer as you go deeper into dance? Or a visual artist? I'm going to add that.
Yeah. So I've always enjoyed and really respected how Marshall McLuhan put that statement, the medium is the message, in his book, like with the entire writing and everything. I think that is something that I really do agree with, and that's something that I find very interesting as well, that you are not confined to a specific medium. When I first started out, actually, because I was a painter, and then I started doing photography, I struggled to introduce myself. So when I say hi to people, like, oh, hi, I'm Sarah and I'm an artist, and they're like, oh, are you like a painter? And I would always find it very uncomfortable to say, no, I'm a photographer, because I don't feel like a photographer as well. Because my photographs are not like pure like photographs, they always have an element of painting inside. And then when I went into making video works, I also feel uncomfortable to call myself a filmmaker because I do not have that background and that training, and a lot of my works, like my video works, will not be possible without the support of the entire crew and my supporters backing it up, right? So I always struggle to call myself a certain thing. So I then later came to terms with calling myself an artist or multidisciplinary artist, because really I would want to adopt a medium that actually conveys the intentions, like my intentions, or a particular emotion or a particular memory. Yeah. So I would say maybe artist, more of an artist than a filmmaker or a photographer. Yeah.
A question is, any repercussions with privacy? We don't
Yes.
have, I think, I'm not sure about the privacy law. I think it's indecent exposure, but it's not you, it's the other side.
Yes. So I think that's why, I think similar to your question just now, Audrey, when you ask about the responses, right, from the people that are being filmed, like, will they be comfortable, uncomfortable, or how do they, are they okay with it? As an artist, then there's a lot of times I would need to kind of exercise certain decision making while creating the works, right? So in another piece of video work that was titled, it was a Tuesday like any other Tuesday. I was filming people working on doing their daily routines in their windows without the permission of them. So it was just recording from the street. I was on the street and I was just recording the windows. Again, as an artist, it's not my intention to expose anything negative, and to say like, oh, this person is like, this and that also, however. So that's never the intention of the work. I'm always coming from a point of observing, right? But during that process of recording, I did, if I'm being very honest here, I did witness a moment where this female was taking off her hijab. So that was a very powerful moment, because when I saw that, immediately I was like, oh my goodness, that would be amazing in the film. It's like, the private versus public, she's revealing, she's vulnerable and all that. But then I would have to then make that decision and that call to not include that, because that is not appropriate, that's not okay. And she's unaware, and that's not, if I were her, I wouldn't want that as well. Likewise, if anyone who has been recorded without knowing that they're being recorded and they're in my film, like for Waiting for the Elevator, it was shown at the Esplanade, and that was a big issue. Like the team at the Esplanade was asking like, okay, what if someone who is in the film comes up to say, hey, that's me and I don't want to be in the work? How, like what would I do? So for me, most immediately, when I do record, I try to obscure their faces. If they are unaware, their faces would not be seen. If their faces can be seen and they're uncomfortable being part of my work, then I would exercise that decision to say, sorry, I will have to take down that part of the work. So I would, if they are not comfortable, I will not show the work, I'll take it down. But like I said again, with works like that, I suppose that's why I'm also very excited to make works like that. It's the gray area, it's the in-between. It's not entirely wrong, it's not right, completely right as well. Yeah. So yeah.
It's a difficult decision sometimes between making great art the way you decide versus trying to please everyone. And I wonder if that's some sort of decisions you have to make sometimes. 2 more questions. Does this feel more like painting than your other work because of the distance that you have to take?
Actually, it is the element of the element and process of painting is very prevalent in all my works. So I think not so much. I wouldn't say it's more so for this work. Actually, I don't feel so. In fact, I feel like, with painting, you have to have so much control. Like I can control the lighting, I can control where I want to place all my objects, I can add things on, I can reduce it, I can even add hues, layers and layers of colors. I decide how it's done, nobody can interfere. But with this work, because there's the element of chance, it's very difficult. It is very difficult because I have to let go of so much control. So if the window, right, in their house is aesthetically not how I would like it to be, I have to work with that, because I am not there to direct it. I'm not there to paint the picture. And to paint it afterwards, like now, there's only so much I can do, there's only so much I can add in, so much blues I can put in, so much magentas I can add. yeah, if there is something blocking the window like a dead plant, I will have to work with the dead plant. So I think it's not that I feel that this is more like a painting, but I think maybe it pushes me to exercise the thought process as a painter even more. Because now when I have a problem in front of me, I can't just reshoot. I have to think about how to paint over or or replace it with something else.
The next question is is kind of related, but I find it very interesting. And the question is, the element of staging is important for control over the final product. Your new work has an element of chance and possibly not achieving your desired end state. Does this diminutive control concern you? And how do you ensure you achieve an altered end state?
Right. So the altered end state, right? The final work and what I want to achieve. I'm always very particular about that. So I'm a bit, for lack of a better word, like anal that way. Like I really, it needs to be of a certain aesthetics, right? And of course, the lack of control is something that I struggle with. So the lack of control is something that sometimes keeps me up a lot. Like, so before, the night before the shoot, or the entire day before I shoot, because the shoot is usually at night, I control the aesthetics by choosing the time. So for example, I know that at night I get more painterly colors. So I would then, choose to have it at night. But what time at night? Would it be like 7 p.m.? No, because people would have dinner. So they wouldn't be in the mood, you know what I mean? They won't be like, oh, they won't feel romantic. They won't feel like, let's just do this. This also I don't think people will be as open to this dance participation if it's not during this period. It's because I do believe that it's because it's during this period. That's why they are a little bit more open. You know, they have a little bit more time. They're a bit closer to one another now. And then the Sing Singapore recently happened. So it is not surprising to hear a request like that again. So all these things need to be considered. So when the lead up to the final shoot, everything matters. When do they get the letter? What's in the letter? So if I just write a letter and say that, oh, I am an artist, I'm working on this project, can you dance at this time? It will not work. I have to set the stage to create a kind of like feeling or emotion or mood. And I think for me that can be established through the writings and the words. So whatever I can control, I will do that. And then after I capture the video, then relating to the previous question, then I have to exercise like the thought process of a painter. If the blue light here does not work, how can I shift this around? So then maybe I have to balance out the windows. Like, okay, I need to have like orange, magenta light, and blue light. Maybe I have to alter this light or paint over a cast, right, to create that. The building now does not look as interesting because it's just whatever I see. I probably have to paint on textures. Add plants, maybe. Create shadows, more shadows, to get my desired outcome. Yeah.
So I have a private message here, which is really interesting, an observation from someone in the group that said, it'd be really interesting if you consider to consolidate your photo moments into a paint work. So if you go back to where you came from, and I wrote back to her to say, that is a huge challenge for you to go back and forth in your practice, but we're looking forward to that.
So actually, I was priming my canvas so that I can work on. I was thinking it'd be interesting to paint the different scenes that I see in transparent colors or translucent colors, and see what that adds up to. But yeah, so that was something that I was thinking about.
So we can look forward to that.
Yeah.
And I think we have a beautiful last question, unless anybody else has anything burning, and you feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or put the question in the chat. But I have a really great question, the last question. Your integration of video and pictures with the colors are beautiful. If you had a choice to pick your favorite, which would you be most proud of? And why?
I'm proud of all my works. I really cannot pick one because I think, actually, to be very frank, one leads to another. So, like the current work that I'm working on right now would not have happened without like out of the rehearsal, accelerated intimacy, and the earlier work. So every work it's like climbing, it's like going up a mountain. You just have to have to keep taking the next step, and each step gets more difficult because you already have done a few things, right? So if you want to go up the next thing, you think it's like you're as good as your last work, right? You are only as good as your last show or work. So every next step has to be very calculated and very intentional and very thought through. So every piece is like um a baby, because if I have done works that I'm not proud of, and those works have never been exhibited, so they will exist as sketches, or like they are like in a corner chucked away. Like I did this painting, like a back portrait. I think I have it here. It's in my studio, and it's something that I would look at, and something that I would think about, because that would push that serves as a stepping stone to the next work. So for me, that piece was a painting, and if you ask me, am I proud? I mean, it's not that I'm not proud of it. I love it, but it's just that I don't think it's strong enough as a work for it to be shown now. So maybe in the near future. Yeah.
But I guess you never know. Sometimes some of the most failed work by artists are iconic moments in their career. Like I've seen retrospectives with some of the works that people just thought were not good, actually in retrospect become really important because they were turning points.
Mm.
So don't throw them away.
Mm.
Does anybody else have any questions for Sarah? Because we've just about reached 10 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate. We are publishing content in the gallery. We're trying our best. We have some YouTube videos, very casual, as much as we can do from Zoom. So if you go on YouTube and you type Yeo Workshop, you'll see some stuff that we're publishing. We're trying to turn our mailers into a bit of a magazine, so there's a bit more content. I hope I'm not going to lose our subscribers. Hope it's not too many words. And we will have another one of these on the 20th of June with the Italian Cultural Institute for Filippo Sciascia. And he is a painter. So I will invite everyone again. But thank you for spending your Saturday evening. Hope everyone else enjoys your night, has a wonderful evening. And speak to everyone. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.